Our next speaker needs no introduction. Dany Farha.
Okay, thanks, Mustafa. So I'm not going to say too many thank yous because, Antoine, you've done a gracious job. I actually want to thank you, Antoine, for all of your support and for making us better professionals and better human beings. I also want to thank lots of people, but I'm going to skip the thank yous for now. Is Pinaki in the room? Okay. Pinaki, thank you for your support. Thank you to the DIFC. We could not have put this venue, this event on today without your support. Clicker. So again, lots of thank yous. I know we're pressed for time, but I want to thank all the sponsors who, without you, really we couldn't have done this today. There were the Cadillacs and the OMDs who jumped on this from the first phone call, wanting to support our ecosystem. And so anyone that helps us further our vision, we are extremely grateful. I won't go through all of the thank yous, but I want to tell you a little story about Pictet. Where are our friends from Pictet? If you can just put your hands up or stand up, or just, there you are, in the back of the house. So last year, the wonderful people from Pictet called me up and said, how can we help? How can we support BECO? How can we support tech entrepreneurship in the Middle East? And we as a team gave it some thought, and we said the best way to do this is through learning. And so we set this event last year. It was a half-day event, quite a modest affair, but it met with resounding success, and all the people who attended were excited to do a repeat this year. So that's really why we're here. So thank you again, Pictet, for inspiring this event. This is now going to be an annual event on our annual calendar, and it will be our investor conference every single year. The last thank you, I promise. So I know that Antoine, you said thank you to the whole BECO team, but there is one person in this room I'd like to thank right now, and that is Serene. Serene, can you come up on stage? Serene doesn't know this is not part of the proceedings, by the way, but she has done such an amazing job over the last few months that on behalf of the BECO team, I wanted to present. Okay. So today we have an amazing lineup of speakers, people from the US, people from emerging markets. We've spotlighted India because they're our friends and they live right next door, and there's so much to learn from them, and they're ahead of us in our the development of our ecosystem, and so we stay very close to them to try and derive inspiration. We're also showcasing a lot of innovation and technology innovation. There are some people that may not be presenting, but they are in the crowd, and we'll make sure that you guys can meet them so that you can also be inspired as to what we Arabs and Middle Eastern residents can do vis-a-vis technology innovation. I would urge everyone to please, throughout the day, meet each other, not just the speakers. This is about learning and about forging new relationships and forging existing relationships. So without further ado, I'm going to move on. One last thing. So what's extra special for us today is that the entire day proceedings will be moderated by the BECO investment team that Antoine referred to earlier on. So I hope you enjoy our moderation and our intense preparation. I'm going to fly straight into trying to set perspective and historic context on what we've been through in the technology ecosystem, because I think a lot of us run very, very quickly in the day and we forget about where we were, where we are, and where we're going. So imagine in the year 2000, in my former life, I was a technology entrepreneur. I was fortunate enough to be a co-founder at a company called BECO. And when we started that business, we had 2.5% internet penetration across the region. It was around about that number from the year 2000 to 2005. Nobody was online. Those of us who were online were on dial-up. It was painful. We still started a business and managed to build a very successful business, and we think one of the most profitable businesses, digital businesses in MENA. At that time, in 2000, there was one VC entity, and by the way, we call it a VC entity because actually we got funded by them out of Jordan, Amman, but they invested in BMW showrooms and fisheries, so they weren't really VC. But without them, we probably wouldn't have got our start. So just put things into context. Sheikh Mohammed then comes along with Rashid Al Maktoum and decides to build DIC, and we are jumping and screaming for joy because we're able to be licensed and sit and live in an ecosystem with people worrying about similar problems to us, technology. However, it was primarily dominated by the old guard. Well, today they're the old guard. Then maybe Microsoft and Cisco were building the tech internet infrastructure, so they weren't old guard then. But the big guys, it was configured for big business. And it was so uncool to be a tech entrepreneur, and it was lonely. There wasn't much going on in that decade from 2000 to 2010. In fact, I remember I used to go out and have drinks, dinner, whatever, and people ask me, what do you do? And I tell them what I do. And they would be so unimpressed. Today, it's very different. You go out and you say, hey, I'm a startup, and everybody wants to know what you're doing, and they want to invest in you and give you money. Again, I'm just trying to put historic context to this globally, but even more so where we came from 16 years ago. It was ugly, it was lonely. In that 2000 to 2010 period, there is no actual hard empirical data, but from all, we were in the ecosystem, we were in the thick of it. We estimate that about $50 million, actually less, but let's round it up so that we don't have arguments, was invested in the tech and particularly the digital economy then. That's in a 10-year period. That's $5 million a year. There are people here that make that on a very infrequent basis without being specific. So, but what's cool is we actually still managed to create value. You have a bunch of companies that emerged from that initial era that were crazy enough to build something in an economic block with no internet consumption and no money. Very, very tough conditions. So we estimate $400 million in enterprise value. Some have exited, some have not. But we still managed to create a lot of value. If you put $50 million into anything over a 10-year period and you get $400 million at the other end, it's pretty good. In the last 2 years, there has been $500 million invested in a handful of companies. We have the founder of Talabat in the house, Hamad Jafar. Souk and Kareem obviously taking the lion's share of that money. $750 million has gone into the ecosystem from 2013 to 15 in a very short space of time. Just to, again, to put things into context, draw that graph. Nothing happening, no one online, no money going in, and suddenly we're on the map and we're making significant progress. And it's taking us half the time to create exits and to create the same amount of enterprise value. This is what we see. So we are not the entire ecosystem, but we get to see a pretty good reflection of what's happening in the ecosystem. And it is exponential growth. This is deal flow. This is people coming to us on an annual basis saying, fund me, I'm a tech entrepreneur. For the most part, 85% are tech MENA, 15% are off remit for us. They're either non-tech or non-MENA. The 160 you see at the end is the number of companies we actually do a deep dive with and spend a lot of time getting to know them as teams, as people and as businesses. The good news is that it used to be an exclusive Jordan UAE story, it's now spreading across the region. And why is that good? We cannot do this on our own. Even the Saudis, who have the biggest market by any stretch, any KPI you want to measure, on its own, you're never going to build a massive business. It takes 50 million digital consumers in an economic block to build billion-dollar businesses. I can see a head shake there, thank you. And without Saudi tagging on to Egypt, tagging on to the Emirates, those are the 3 biggest markets, we don't have a big market. So this is a fantastic trend. This is, just remember, one quasi-VC and no one online. This is something that we publish on an annual basis. We call it the periodic table of tech investing. It's online on our website, on the blog. It's an image to depict hopefully the major players in VC investing in the MENA, internationals, angel groups. As you can see, there's about 120 entities out there trying to further this ecosystem. So just again, momentum, paint that graph. And finally, it takes 50 million digital consumers. Well, guess what? Just in this region, so a lot of people talk MENA. And what is MENA? It's 400 million people, it's 350 million people. We're as big as America, we're not. We are, but the addressable market for us is the GCC, Egypt, Lebanon, Jordan. Of course, we have portfolio companies that operate in Pakistan, that operate in Morocco, and will operate in other geographies, but that is gravy on top. Ultimately, it's almost 160 million people, of which 84 million are online. Strip out the kids under 15 and the people below the poverty line, but they still have a smartphone, and you are at 43 million digital consumers. They're growing at 40% year on year. Next year, we hit the 50 million. It's a tipping point. The significance here is we're very close to the tipping point, into a huge boom in the tech ecosystem. Just for some comparison, since we spend a lot of time learning from our Indian friends, and again, there's a spotlight on India today, you're going to see a lot of incredible entrepreneurs, investors from that market. There's so much to learn. They have been doing this for over a decade, but when they started, they were where we are today. And that's the nice thing. There's so many things to learn from their experiences and their history. So India is a very populous country. It's a great entry. It's a great sales pitch. We have 1/5 of the world's population. Everybody wants scale. But if you actually do the same calculation that we've done for our region in trying to define and identify how many digital consumers we have, by most accounts, they have about 60 million digital consumers. So people who have the propensity to consume goods and services digitally. We're not very far away. And I think, again, couple that with our ability to also have 6 times the spending power, the GDP per capita, if we are able to galvanize the region as an economic bloc, and I talked earlier about the specific region, we have the ability to build amazing, scalable businesses, and we hope to showcase that today to you, both with the Indian example that we are learning from, that is ahead of us, and we can learn a lot from their mistakes and their successes, and from what is happening right here in our backyard. With that, I'm done. Thank you. I think we wanted to give Pinaki the ability to have some opening remarks.